Have you ever watched someone walk into a room, and without saying a single word, the entire energy shifted? They didn't demand attention. They didn't perform. They didn't chase. They simply withdrew. And suddenly, people started questioning, reaching, feeling things they didn't expect to feel. Now ask yourself this. What would happen if you did that? What if you stopped reacting to everything? Stopped being endlessly available, emotionally, physically, psychologically? I'll tell you exactly what would happen. The people who thought they had you completely figured out would suddenly realize they never knew you at all. And that realization changes everything. Stay with me, because what Jung discovered about this dynamic is darker, more powerful, and more liberating than anything you've been told about protecting your energy. The prison nobody told you about. Since childhood, you were taught a quiet lie, that your worth lies in your availability, that being present, always responding, always accommodating, always saying yes, makes you a good person, a loyal friend, a loving partner, a reliable colleague, and you believed it. Because every time you suppressed your own needs to accommodate someone else, you were praised. Every time you absorbed someone's anger to keep the peace, you were told you were mature, selfless, exceptional. But here's the truth. Nobody said clearly enough. This excessive availability is not a virtue. It is a prison. And as long as you believe that being accessible to everyone at all times is a measure of your character, you will be manipulated, drained, and discarded the moment you stop being useful. Jung called the mask we wear to be accepted and loved the persona. And it is exactly this mask that keeps you overly available. You say, "I'm fine," when you're suffocating. You respond to messages the moment they arrive, even when you're completely exhausted. You explain yourself, justify yourself, defend yourself, as if you owe the world a continuous explanation for simply existing. But here is the brutal reality underneath all of it. The more you center yourself in everyone else's story, the more you disappear from your own. Excessive availability is self-abandonment, dressed up as virtue. It's a hidden form of approval-seeking, a way of managing how others perceive you by making yourself indispensable. And that control comes at a precise, measurable price. Why you keep reacting? Jung didn't see the human psyche as a machine that reacts automatically without consequence. He saw it as an energy system, and every thought, every emotion, every impulsive reaction draws from that system, whether you're aware of it or not. So the real question isn't whether you're tired. You already know you're tired. The question is, are you choosing where your energy goes, or are you letting other people decide for you? Every time you defend yourself against criticism that didn't deserve your attention, energy spent. Every time you engage in a pointless argument just to prove you're right, energy spent. Every time you respond to a manipulation just to make the discomfort stop, energy spent. Jung was precise about this. That which you resist persists. The more you react, the more deeply bound you become to the very dynamics draining you. And here's what makes this dangerous, beyond simple exhaustion. When you're chronically depleted, you become vulnerable. And people who exploit others don't announce themselves. They sense vulnerability. They notice when someone can't hold their own center. When someone reacts to everything. When someone is always trying to solve the world, to manage their own anxiety. And they take advantage. But the opposite is equally true, and far more interesting. When you conserve your energy, something shifts in your presence. You walk into a room and command a kind of attention you never had to ask for. You become gravitational because people can sense someone who is fully contained within themselves. That is what's available to you, and it starts with understanding why you give your energy away in the first place. The manipulation nobody warned you about. Here's something worth sitting with. You think your reactions are conscious choices. You believe you're responding freely to the situations around you. But the truth is more uncomfortable than that. Most of your emotional responses are programmed, and those who understand this use it against you easily. Opportunistic people don't need to raise their voices. They don't threaten or fall. They simply locate the buttons you've left exposed and press them, and you react. Every time, reliably, predictably. Jung called this mechanism projection, the psychological process by which people project onto others what they refuse to see in themselves. But there's a dimension of this most people miss entirely. The more emotionally available you are, the more you become a blank canvas for other people's projections. That person who only contacts you during their crises, they're not relating to you, they're relating to the role you agreed to play. The partner who needs you to rescue them constantly. The friend who praises you only while you're useful. None of it is about you. It's about the function you serve in their psychological ecosystem. And why do you keep serving it? Because somewhere underneath, you're afraid. Afraid of disappointing. Afraid of being seen as selfish. Afraid that if you stop being useful, you'll stop being loved. Jung identified this clearly. The most effective manipulation doesn't happen through force. It happens through guilt. Through the quiet belief that you owe the other person your availability, your energy, your peace. But here is the pivot point, the one that changes everything. When you stop reacting, the game collapses entirely. When you go silent instead of explaining, when you withdraw instead of engaging, when you choose observation over reaction, the projection has nowhere to land. The manipulative dynamic loses its architecture. And what's left is something far more revealing than any argument could produce. The power of conscious silence. The modern world rewards noise. Fastest response wins. Most available person gets the validation. Whoever reacts first controls the narrative. But there is a power that sits completely outside this system, that most people have never accessed, and even fewer have mastered. Conscious silence. Not the silence of weakness. Not the silence of not knowing what to say. The silence of someone who has chosen not to play. Jung saw silence not as emptiness, but as fertile ground, the necessary condition for genuine self-understanding. Because when you stop reacting, you begin to observe, and in observation, you see what you couldn't see while you were inside the reaction. Emotional repetitions, manipulation cycles, the patterns of self-betrayal you've been repeating for years without realizing it. Have you noticed how some people panic when you simply don't respond? It's not because they miss you, it's because your silence removes their narrative control. While you're talking, you're still in their game. While you're reacting, they're still directing the scene. But when you go quiet, you've changed the rules entirely. And that unbalances anyone whose influence depended on your predictability. Here's the hard truth about this silence. It will cost you something. It will distance people who only valued the role you played. It will make you seem cold to those who mistook your availability for your identity. You will be called arrogant, distant, changed. Not because you did anything wrong, but because you stopped being functional for people who only needed your chaos to feel in control. But this is exactly what Jung meant by individuation, the process of becoming genuinely fully yourself. And it requires this distancing, this withdrawal, this willingness to be temporarily misunderstood, because only in that silence can you finally hear your own voice, without the world's interference drowning it out. What happens when you become unavailable? Let's get specific, because this isn't abstract philosophy. It plays out in concrete, recognizable ways. In your relationships, the moment you stop being immediately available, the dynamic shifts. People who contacted you only during their emergencies begin to fade, because the exchange was never reciprocal, and your unavailability exposes that. People who genuinely valued you begin to show it, because now your attention is something worth earning. In your family systems, the person who always mediated, always hosted, always absorbed everyone's dysfunction, when they become selective, the system is forced to confront itself. Not because you caused chaos, but because you revealed it. You are the infrastructure holding dysfunction together. Your withdrawal makes the dysfunction visible. In your workplace, the person who took on 3 people's emotional labor while completing their own work, when they set boundaries, the imbalance becomes impossible to ignore. Suddenly, colleagues must manage their own stress. Managers must acknowledge the invisible weight they've been distributing unconsciously. In every context, the pattern is identical. People who depended on your availability will try to provoke the old version of you back into existence. They'll manufacture urgency. They'll use guilt. They'll accuse you of having changed, and they'll be right. You have changed. You've stopped setting yourself on fire to manage other people's temperature. And what they reveal in their reaction, their frustration, their desperation, their attempts to destabilize you, tells you everything you needed to know about why the relationship was costing you so much in the first place. Why your unavailability threatens people. Jung wrote something that cuts directly to the heart of this. We do not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. When you withdraw your availability, you force something onto the people around you that most of them desperately want to avoid. Their own reflection. Your silence reveals their internal noise. Your absence exposes their emptiness. Your boundaries make visible exactly how much they were depending on your emotional chaos to sustain their sense of control. And that is unbearable for people who have never developed the capacity to sit with themselves. So they attack, they criticize, they create emotional drama, not because you did something wrong, but because you stopped functioning as their escape route from their own unexamined interior. The manipulator needs your reaction. The energy vampire needs your depletion. The person who controlled you through guilt needs your compliance. Your unavailability disarms all of it simultaneously, without a single confrontation. You don't need to explain your absence. It explains itself. And those who feel most threatened by it reveal, in that response, exactly how much your presence was serving their interests rather than your own. The rebirth that comes after. When you finally commit to becoming unavailable, genuinely, consistently, from a place of self-respect rather than performance, something unexpected happens. First comes the silence, and it's uncomfortable. It screams inside you. You wonder if you made the right choice. You wonder if you're being selfish. You notice the spaces where the noise used to be, and it doesn't feel like freedom yet. It feels like loss. But gradually, the silence transforms. It begins to cleanse, to clarify, to reveal. And then comes a solitude you didn't expect. Not the solitude of rejection or isolation, the solitude of total self-presence, the experience of being fully in your own company, without performing, without managing, without translating yourself for an audience that was never paying attention to the real you anyway. Jung called this sacred isolation, a necessary phase of individuation, where you stop being shaped by the world's projections and begin rebuilding your identity from your own center. In that space, where confusion was, clarity enters. Where anxiety lived, peace settled. Where neediness drove you, a different kind of strength arrives. The strength of someone who is whole within themselves, who no longer requires external validation to know their own worth, who has stopped reacting and started choosing. The people you lose, the self you find. Let me be completely honest with you about what this costs, because you deserve the full picture. You will lose people. Some of them will be people you genuinely cared about, people you invested years into, people you believed cared about you in return, and their departure will hurt, not because they were good for you, but because familiarity carries its own gravity. Even painful patterns feel like home when you've lived in them long enough. But here is what becomes undeniable on the other side of that loss. The people who leave when you begin protecting yourself were only ever staying for the version of you they could use. They didn't love you, they loved your function. And when you stopped performing it, they went looking for someone who still would. That is not a loss, that is a revelation. And the people who remain, or the people who find you newly, they come to something different. They come to someone who is actually present, actually available, actually generous, because now it's a choice, not a compulsion, not a fear response, masquerading as kindness. That is when real connection becomes possible for the first time. Not connection built on what you can provide, but connection built on who you actually are.